The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Nancy Alspaugh-Jackson. I'm filling in for Shannon Penrod. We're coming to you live from Warner Center in Woodland Hills. And first up this morning we have Ask Dr. Doreen Granpichet, who's going to be answering your questions. Then later it's time for Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. We've got two very special guests this morning, two different teenagers, both on the autism spectrum, making a big difference in the world. Hamish Finlayson is a 13-year-old who's already a celebrated app creator. You're going to really enjoy our interview with him. And then we have 16-year-old Kimball Gary, who wrote a book to help foster autism awareness. And we've got plenty of in the news to cover today. But please remember that our show is meant to be interactive. Samantha is going to show you some ways that you can connect with us. While she does, please remember our homepage is autism-live.com. We'd love to hear your questions and comments, as it is always free to participate. And now it's time for Ask Dr. Doreen.
Dr. Doreen Granpichet is the
Dr. Doreen is an expert in autism.
Doreen Granpichet.
Dr. Granpichet.
Dr. Doreen Granpichet.
Dr. Doreen Granpichet is a visionary in the field of autism. Now you can ask her questions on Ask Dr. Doreen.
We want to welcome Dr. Granpichet on this special day. We're a day late, but we want to wish you a very belated happy birthday.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
As many of you know, Dr. Granpichet is a celebrated and respected expert in the field of autism with 40 years of experience. Her influence in the autism community is felt around the world, not just only through her work at CARD and organizations like the founder of Autism Care and Treatment Today, but many of you may not know about Dr. Doreen's other accomplishments.
Oh, God.
For instance, you may not know that when Dr. Granpichet was a teenager, having just arrived in the States, she went on tour with Genesis as their mysterious and often overlooked sixth band member,
God, that's amazing.
which she is credited with keeping the band together. In fact, when she left, it was mere minutes before Phil Collins left the band, which is why she is sometimes referred to as the Yoko Ono of Genesis.
That's awesome.
Next, she played a pivotal role on The Sopranos as Tony Soprano's fill-in therapist whenever Dr. Jennifer Melfi was otherwise occupied. It was her character that advised Tony to forget about it. In her spare time, Dr. G made guest appearances on Breaking Bad as the expert pizza throwing on the roof consultant. Lately, she splits her time between punching up jokes for famed stand-up comic Bill Burr.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
And
I love that.
Guest starring on the hit show Game of Thrones.
Oh, perfect. Oh my God.
Dr. Doreen, we wish you the happiest of birthdays.
Thank you, Nancy. And thank you, Samantha.
Okay.
And I have to thank Shannon. That's amazing.
Yes.
That's so crazy.
Thank for your enjoyment there
I'm
for
gonna
your
have,
birthday.
That was fantastic. I'm going to have to get those little clips and
Those
show
images?
them to my
Okay.
family, those images, because those were the best. Thank you so much.
Okay, so we have lots of questions. We want to remind everyone that the advice given is not child-specific and is meant to be general in nature. There is no expert who can give child-specific advice in this format. So.
Absolutely. So we'll do the very best we can to answer these lovely questions that are coming in. And
Okay.
there's a lot of them.
Yes, there are. So hello, Shannon and Dr. Doreen. Wonderful again to listen to you both every week. Love the show. My son is 7.5 years old with ASD and lots of
Trying to find
challenges.
that one.
Can you find this one?
No, let me see. No, but that's okay. Go ahead. I'll just write it down.
Okay. We are in New York, He's having lots of challenges, aggressive behaviors,
Okay.
still having articulation problems. We are in New York. He is in a contained class, has a one-on-one aide, OT, speech, counseling. ABA is not provided by the school. Also has academic problems. He can't read, which frustrates him, and getting schoolwork done at school is a challenge. His behaviors haven't improved and his academics are behind, and soon he will be in 3rd grade. How can I convince the school that I feel my son is not making progress?
Right.
Already had a meeting, they are procrastinating the next one. I feel they give in too easy on him during tantrums and that his services and behavior approaches are inconsistent. I don't feel the teachers are knowledgeable to handle all his challenges, and that's why we are stuck. But I'm torn since he loves his school and his one-on-one, even when I know it is not working for him. Please, any advice?
Perfect. Can I just put that one in front of me as I answer it? Because that's a long one. Great. So 7.5 years old, and he has a lot of challenging behaviors and a lot articulation issues. And in New York, and you're in a contained class, and he has a one-to-one aide. Great. OT, speech counseling, ABA is not provided by
Right.
school. Wow. Okay, so and he was swimming. I don't know his functioning level, so it's a little bit hard to advise. But honestly, as much as we want our kids to be happy, and he seems to be happy and he likes his school, I think it's really important that at this age we get some of the aggression under control, because as he ages, you don't want him to be aggressive and have challenging behaviors. That's really, really important. Even 7.5, it's already kind of concerning. So you would think that in school they would be addressing these issues, but obviously if they don't have the specialized one-to-one services for him, like the
Right.
ABA, they might not really know how to deal with those things. And as you said, when you say you feel like they give in too easy when he has a tantrum, obviously what's happening in that case is he tantrums, he probably gets what he wants when you say they take it too easy on him. So he either gets what he wants, or he gets to leave, or he gets to somehow get a reinforcer, essentially. So tantruming behavior is going to increase. It's not going to go away. And so I agree with you that they're probably maintaining some of those behaviors, maybe inadvertently, like maybe they're just not aware of it. But I think it's really important that you do look at other schools where he might be able to get better services, or you actually start getting ABA for him. And the ABA that you get for him could be in school, but it could also be outside of school, after school. So you're in New York. New York is a covered state, so if you have health insurance, medical insurance, you should be able to get coverage. And if you get ABA coverage, then you'll be able to supplement with ABA at home on the weekends after school. And then those people, whoever your ABA provider is, can go in and also work with the school and teach the school. Now, the process for doing all that is you can look online. We, of course, have several offices in New York, but I don't know where you are. So just go online and look for applied behavior analysis providers. You will find there's a lot of providers in New York. It's pretty packed with providers, just like California. And you'll find providers, and you'll get in touch with them, and they will do their own format of admissions and intake. So like what we do here is we'll do a bunch of testing. We'll have you fill out a lot of questions online. And then once we get sort of a profile, during the time we're assessing your child's skills and deficits and behaviors, challenging behaviors, we submit all your paperwork to your insurance, and then we get an authorization. We get that in, and then we start providing treatment based on the authorization. And you should be able to get a bunch of hours if he has challenging behavior. That's really easy. Like, no insurance is going to ignore a child who has aggression. So that's one of the things that we would be able to do. Focus on what is the most important. Right now, academics are not as important as communication and challenging behavior. Like, the most important thing when he's 7.5 is getting his challenging behaviors under control, getting his language to increase so he can communicate better. That includes articulation, by the way. It's very frustrating for kids when they talk and no one understands what they're saying. Like, that's frustrating. So you have to fix all that and not worry so much about academics. Although I understand that he has problems there, and it could be frustrating for him where he falls behind academically as well. So you need a pretty comprehensive type of program that takes care of all of his needs. So my advice is really either get in touch with us or get in touch with another provider who's in your region, and there's so many in New York, and get them involved. This is not something your school's going to take care of right now.
Okay,
I'll give this back to you.
great. I don't think you have this page, but
I don't know.
Okay.
We can go to the next one.
Okay. Let's go to this page that you have, which
Okay,
is
sure.
how do I teach my son how to react appropriately to situations? He either has no reaction, no facial change, or he overreacts and cries to situations that typical kids would not cry about. Do kids on the spectrum have a difficult time expressing the right emotion? How can I help? Thanks.
Right. I think I'm not sure that I would say they have a difficult time expressing the right emotion. I do think they might misinterpret things, which would then lead to a different emotion. And let's talk about what I mean with that. So no facial change or reaction might be just not understanding that what just happened. In other words, if you won't react if you don't realize what just happened, And overreacting is the same in some ways. I feel like, let's say a child might accidentally knock over your child's backpack at school, and your child will freak out because he'll either think, oh my God, like this was an intentional act, like he'll misread it, or he'll freak out just because he wants things in a certain order and now it's out of order. So there's features of autism that make us react differently to the world. So I don't think it's about not being able to express the right emotion, because when he's upset, he'll cry. But it might seem a lot more like an overreaction because it's so dramatic for our child what just happened. And that's just because, like, for instance, our kids have things like they're very obsessive about things being a certain way, some kids. And if you disrupt that, it's almost like someone with obsessive behavior, obsessive compulsive disorder, where their whole world falls apart.
Right.
And so that is what you're probably seeing. And so it's not really about changing the expression, it's about understanding what he's experiencing. So I would say you need to kind of try to see things from his perspective. And if you see, let's say, an overreaction, try to figure out why he's overreacting, and then try to, I don't know your child, but if he's able to express himself, maybe it would be really helpful to have him identify what it is he's feeling, what it is he's saying, why he thinks this. A lot of times our kids will, and this is also, by the way, it's typical of young children, typically developing. I remember when my son was really little, he was like, my kids hate it when I use them on this show, but I'm doing it anyway. But he was like maybe 4 years old or something, or 3 years old, and I was talking about firing someone at card, and he overheard it, and then I found him like in his closet crying, and I went and I was like, what is going on? And he said, why do you want to throw fire on someone? Right? And that's what he thought he heard. And I was like, no, that's not what I'm saying. And that was like what made him, and that happens often with our kids. They misunderstand a word, they misunderstand a situation, and then their reaction just is different. It's much more pronounced. So I think that's where you have to focus, is more like, what is his perspective? What is the child seeing or hearing that is making them react or not react?
Okay.
That's the cause of it.
Okay. Let's take a quick break and we'll come back. We've got more questions.
Great. Thank you.
Hi everyone, welcome back. It's April, which means it's also spring. And what we're going to be doing today is making our very own chia pets. What's cool about this project, it's an activity that you can revisit with your family as you watch it grow and change. All right, now that I piqued your interest, let's get to it. The materials we'll be needing are water, dirt, arts and craft materials, chia seeds, a container, and nylon. So let's get started. It's super easy. All you're gonna do is you're gonna take an old pair of nylons that you have, you're gonna cut off the toe, and what you're gonna do is you're gonna take some of your chia seeds and sprinkle them at the very bottom. We don't need too much, just a little bit. And then once I've got my chia seeds there, I'm gonna take my dirt and pour that in. And we wanna make sure that we've got quite a bit in there. You wanna keep this tail. What this does is acts as a way to soak up the water to feed your little chia plant. So I'm gonna take the bottom now. I'm gonna tie this into a knot. So now that I've got this little guy, now it's time to decorate him. And you can decorate him however you feel like. What I did is that I made some little features out of felt that I'm gonna add to my little guy to give him a face. Now that I've got them all decorated, I'm gonna pour some water into my container and make sure my tail is all nice and soaked up in there. And here's my little buddy. I made a mouse, but you can always make whatever kind of creature your child finds super reinforcing. Make sure they like the little animal that you make so they'll wanna come back and revisit him. As you can see right now, he's a little bald, but hopefully, keeping your fingers crossed, in a week he'll have some hair. With the snap of my fingers, we're gonna go through a week in a few seconds. And oh my gosh, this little guy has changed quite a bit. Can you see how? Yeah, he's got some hair now. You can have your kids describe how this little guy looks to their friends, and you can even work on body parts by having them label all the features that this little guy has on his face. So let's see, what does he have? He's got eyes, a nose, a mouth, and ears. What do you think will happen to him if I stop watering him? Yeah, he probably won't be growing any more hair if I did that. Well, I hope you enjoyed this activity. I know I did. Tune in next time, okay? And until then, craft on. Bye, guys.
Can you see me? Can you see me flying by your side?
And we are back with Ask Dr. Doreen. Our next question, hello, Dr. Doreen and Shannon, who we say hi to. She's not in yet. She'll be here a little bit later for Let's Talk Autism. You guys make my day every week. I have a 12, almost 13-year-old child with autism. He is verbal, but struggles with pragmatics, has a mood disorder, and is on Zoloft 100 milligrams for a year now. Is it normal that he is regressing as he ages? His cognitive skills decreased and have gotten slower to respond when handling situations. He acts like he is 6 or 7 in all ways, gets meltdowns over baby toys. His daily living skills got even worse, needs redirection for all, even worse on awareness, especially when out. He always had difficulties handling frustrations and routines, often ending in meltdowns. I thought as he got older he would improve on those areas, but he is worse. The therapist and myself switch techniques as we fail progress, and we always get stuck and don't move forward, and we have to go back to teach him even with PECs, even though he talks. We're on our 5th therapist in 5 years. Please advise.
Oh, yeah. So first of all, let's just be clear. There's no regression at this age that is for, random reasons. So there's no like spontaneous regression. So there's got to be something going on where he's acting out, basically. And I wouldn't worry about the Zoloft either. That's not going to cause this type of regression, and it actually is not bad to be on that right now, because whatever it is that he's handling he's having a hard time with it. What I want to, and I don't know his level of functioning, so keep that in mind, please. But what I do want to say is that a couple of different things. One is that just like us, as we age, our rewards in life change, right? So when we're little kids, a certain toy might be what matters or what is most rewarding. For us, as we age, it then goes from, like, let's say for women, it goes from toys to people to social, our friends. And then it goes to like self-image and boys and whatever else. For boys, it generally stays toys. They just change toys,
Toys, just older guy toys.
Exactly. And activities and games, right? I mean, boys are more into games. But The bottom line is that we all have different things that are our reinforcers. When you're like 10 years old, it's probably not going to be listening to classical music, but when you're 40, 50, it might be. So your things change, your rewards. And I don't know that, and it's really important in life. I mean, sometimes, as you know, life like throws things at us that are very, very hard, right? And in those moments of time, we have to increase our reinforcers because the demands are too high. The struggles are too much, the depression gets to us, all that. So like when hardship gets higher, we have to increase our reinforcers just to balance it out and cope. That's coping. So like I look at, like right now, my life is extremely hectic and has been for a while. So I find myself reinforcing myself with, like, for instance, I'm eating more, which is not necessarily a healthy reinforcer, but definitely, because I know I'm not sleeping, so I try to fuel myself that way. And I think with life, everyone has to learn to do that, to like to first recognize this is a difficult time, I need to increase my reinforcers. So this is one thing that might not be happening, is that his reinforcers might not be either suitable to his age or interesting. Like if you get the same reinforcers continuously, by the way, they don't work anymore, right? Because you have access to them all the time. Like honestly, even if you think of the most, like let's say a big plate of ice cream. If I have ice cream every day, morning and night, I'm gonna get sick of it. It's not gonna be a reinforcer anymore. Just things that are initially reinforcing can lose value. So keep that in mind. Now with him, it could be the following things. Either he's not doing well with what is in front of him, so he's failing at certain things in his life, and that is internally, intrinsically not satisfying when you fail. So that's one thing. He could be failing at his tasks, in which case, if they're academic or daily living or whatever they are, you need to help and make them, model them, prompt them, break them down. A behavior therapist would like help him be successful at all times. So being unsuccessful is a horrible thing. And with kids, it ends up causing behavior problems because they're not successful. That's one thing. The second thing is things could be getting boring for him. I don't know. Like if it's a lot of repetition and if it's a verbal child and you're going back to PECs, it could be boring for him. It could be just like, drudgery, like, why are you forcing me to keep doing this? So that could be causing him to act out as well. So that's another thing. Some of the things that if it's a child who's on an SSRI, like Zoloft, there's also, and you say mood disorder, but there's also the possibility that he's very obsessive compulsive. He needs, like, there are certain other aspects of things that he's kind of controlling anyway. Like maybe he wants to go do certain things that he's not able to do, and that's frustrating. What I'm trying to say is there are certain things that are frustrating and let's say difficult, demanding, and then he's probably not getting enough reinforcers as well. So you sort of need to balance that out. Either you make his tasks easier or you prompt them more so that he learns, and then you reinforce heavily as well. Having said all that, the one thing you definitely want to keep your eye on is attention seeking. A lot of kids, and I don't know, not usually at 12 or 13, but it could be, that he has learned a pattern of either getting out of tasks or seeking attention or getting attention when he acts out. That is probably a very common thing that happens all the time. So you need to look at that first. Has he learned that, like, you ask him to do something and he has throws a tantrum or something like that and he gets out of it? Has that happened? If that has happened, then that would explain pretty much everything, right? But one of the things that it says, he always had difficulties handling frustrations and routines often ending in meltdowns.
Right.
So it's sort of, if he's frustrated and he's always had an issue expressing that, that's where you need to focus, is to teach him how to express his frustrations and then help him not deal with a situation. Let me tell you, my 15-year-old might have the same kind of stuff. Like kids, when they're frustrated, they just have a meltdown. They don't know how to calm themselves down and express it. We even, when we're frustrated, we have a meltdown. So it's a matter of like figuring out for him, what is it causing his meltdown? Is the situation too hard? Is he not understanding it? Is he bored with it? Whatever those things are, break it down and express it, like help him express himself. Because honestly, if he's able to express himself and he has enough reinforcers coming in, then this stuff will stop.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It's tough though when you see your child starting to have behaviors and
Yes.
they were doing before they were doing better. Yeah.
Very tough. This question is from, it looks like somebody that works with a family. I work with a child diagnosed with autism. The only service he has at school is speech. How can the parents get more services?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And of course, there are many, many states now that have insurance coverage. And so the first thing I would do is I would look and see if the family has insurance coverage. And unless you're with a self-insured company, you're most likely going to have coverage, because right now we have really good coverage even through Medicaid throughout the US. So I would look at their health insurance, and then through that process, it's sort of the same thing I was saying earlier to the other parent. You need to get your insurance information to a provider, a behavior analysis provider, so a behavior analyst. You look online, you'll find lots and lots of ABA, Applied Behavior Analysis organizations, and contact them, send over your insurance information or have the parents do that, and then they will check for benefits. And then there's very few people right now in the US who can't access anything. And so once you have the benefits in place, that provider will get an authorization and they will start providing treatment. And honestly, that's the way to go, because we're too used to depending on speech, on services at school. And it's just, it doesn't compare. Like when you have insurance coverage and when you get access to that, it's so much better. It's so much more free. It gives you so much more freedom than what you get from school.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have this question here. Hi,
This one.
Shannon and
Yeah,
Dr. Doreen,
yeah.
West Virginia mom.
Oh, I have them. Yep.
Okay. West Virginia mom here. As you know, my daughter is 6, considered high functioning. She's recently had another language explosion. Yay.
Yay.
Our speech team doesn't work on language as a whole. They work on articulation and aren't interested in anything else. This week, while I was cooking, she came to me and said she needed to ask me something, but that her body doesn't know what to do to tell me.
Aw.
By talking to her, I was able to gather that she wanted to know if she could help me prepare dinner. How would I work on this? Do I need to work on building her vocabulary or more on the social aspects of conversational speech? Thanks a bunch for all you guys do.
That is amazing. That's so cool. Okay. So West Virginia mom, you know that you know that there's a lot of different things that you have to teach to bring it together. It's not the social aspect in this particular case, because she came up to you. So that's not going to be the thing that's holding her back. I think it's about just being able to express herself in more detail, lengthier conversation. And I would work on expanding, so like increasing the length of sentences with more descriptors. And there's a lesson in skills, and I think you're on skills, where it's ask versus tell, and that's an important lesson here for her, where you can teach her to ask for long things, like I'd like to do this, I'd like to do that. And I think it's just a matter of, it's an expansion on the demanding lesson, really. It's like you can ask for things, but you can ask for a lot of things, not just specific objects. You can ask for activities, you can ask, and you can describe those. So that's where I would, and of course, you know, it's funny you mentioned vocabulary, because sometimes when I have really high functioning kids and we're like trying to figure out what it is that is holding them back, we'll do a bunch of testing and it ends up being vocabulary. You'd never think that, but the more vocabulary our kids know, the more fluent they are, the more comfortable they are. It affects a lot of things, and it never occurs to us that, by the way, they just didn't get enough vocabulary when they were younger.
Right.
So this is not a bad idea either, because if the more vocabulary she memorizes, and that depends on her memory, the better it will be for her overall communication. But social stuff is a little bit different. Like, it's a little bit more advanced, and you're not going to be worrying about that at 6 anyway with her.
Okay. Here's when my 12-year-old autistic grandson is resisting us in practicing good hygiene.
Okay.
He takes daily showers but does not want to shampoo his hair, brush his teeth, put on deodorant, etc. I feel like we are constantly nagging him. He says he doesn't care what people think of him stinking, etc. Help.
Okay. Okay. So if he, I don't know if he probably doesn't care. Like he's telling you he doesn't care, and he probably doesn't care. So and I don't know if his functioning level is at the point where you can make him care. In other words, is he at the point where he would care if he lost friends, if this actually happened? So if, for instance, would he care if he heard people saying, "Oh, he doesn't smell good. We don't want to play with him. We don't want to hang out with him."
Right.
I don't know, but that's why people care. It's because they can imagine the end result. He might not be able to imagine what it's like if people don't want to hang out with him, but he's just saying it. On the other hand, maybe he really doesn't care, and maybe he's not a very social guy anyway.
Right.
And he so that means the normal reinforcers for good hygiene don't exist for him, which means you need to put in some reinforcers. Now, nagging him is basically like prompting. Like you're giving him an instruction and continuously reminding him. That becomes a lot of work for you. I want to ask you a question. As you nag him, do you give him rewards for doing these things? Or is it just expected? And that's the thing. What I would do is I would go back and I would hold back some things that are majorly reinforcing. I don't know what that would be. He's 12, maybe it would be his laptop, his iPad. I wouldn't hold it back in a negative way, but I would maybe either restrict that access to it, or I would come up with new reinforcers, things that are very important to him, like particular games, things that he likes.
Right.
It could even be food reinforcers. It doesn't really matter. Reinforcers. And then I would go over and I would say, could you please do a good job shampooing your hair, or show me? And if you do, you can get this. And then basically reinforce each of these behaviors. So reinforce shampooing hair, reinforce brushing teeth, reinforce putting on deodorant, and break it down and give him a reward for each of those things. You can still nag him. You can still say, it's time for you to go brush your teeth. And he does it, and then he gets a reinforcer. But break it down and increase the reinforcer.
Right.
And one good way to do that, depending on his skill level, is to actually take a picture of him doing each of these and then put it on a sequential board. Like, so you'll put him shampooing, a picture of his brushing his teeth, putting on his deodorant, any other grooming type of hygiene type stuff. Then as he does each one, he can actually tell you, I'm done, and then he can get a reinforcer. And then over time, what ends up happening is then you start requiring him to do two things and get a reinforcer as opposed to just one, and then the whole sequence, and he gets the reinforcer.
Right.
So that's just shaping or chaining a series of skills, and that's all you need to do, really. But up the reinforcer and make it clear to him that these are the things that are necessary in order to get a reward.
Okay.
And make sure it's a reinforcer that he cares about.
Very good. Okay, let's take another quick break, and we'll be back with more of Ask Dr. Doreen.
Can you say hello? Say hello.
AJ?
Stop crying.
AJ, let's eat. Can you eat, AJ? Let's eat, son. Have a fry. My understanding of autism was very limited.
He would lick tires on cars, windows, you name it. And so we went to the 13-month checkup, and I remember our pediatrician, he said, well, He probably has autism. There's nothing you can do about it. Come back in a year when he's 3.
Our initial understanding of what the ABA program was basically all we picked up from this clinic in San Antonio.
He didn't pick up any signs the entire 8 months that he was there. I think the difference came when we changed vendors.
We were very impressed with the way that CARD actually gathered data to be able to quantify the progress that he was making. They have a curriculum that they follow that's tailored to each child. They were identifying AJ's strengths and weaknesses.
We were finally starting to see real progress.
Good, AJ. Here's eggs.
The first thing CARD did for us was, I remember the first time AJ said, "Mommy, I want you." And that was the most wonderful thing ever. There's hope.
Yeah,
That's when I knew that there was hope. I never thought that AJ would be able to say that. It was like a gift from God. It was so fantastic.
With CARD, we got him enrolled in a private school.
And he was in a typical classroom. He would go from activity to activity. He could sit when he was supposed to sit. He could be around typical kids. The goal is for CARD to work themselves out of a job. It's for AJ to be in a mainstream classroom with no help, and he's functional and he's learning. We're really grateful to all of the therapists. AJ would not be where he is without them, and we will never be able to repay the part of themselves that they gave to him to make his life better and to make our lives better.
What is autism? What is autism?
What is autism?
What is autism?
What is autism?
What is autism?
I've been asking myself that for a very, very long time.
Let me think about that one.
Trying to, just,
Jeez. Let me think. Oh man, that's a big one. Yes.
Autism,
Autism is a neurological disorder that affects many of our kids in different ways.
It's a learning disability that affects the cognitive functions of the brain.
A lot of people have the misconception that it's a disability, and it's really not.
I look at it as like a special gift.
When one person thinks differently from another.
It's an opportunity for everyone to learn to understand someone that's a little different than them. Autism is the ability to educate.
They're given so much talent in different areas.
To me, autism means a chance to be with and be around people you really care about. Autism is beautiful.
It's a way of seeing the world differently.
It's always unique, totally intelligent, and sometimes mysterious.
Happiness that comes out of my son's hard work.
It's a movement.
Unpredictable.
That's right.
Awesome. Love. The field I want to work in.
Laughter, fun, joy. Autism is beautiful to me.
I want you to remember these 3 words. There is hope.
Okay, good morning to Shannon and Dr. Doreen. How important is the psych evaluation during the 3-year IEP for high schooler? Current accommodations seem to be working, and we continue to coach problem-solving skills. IEP went well. Unsure of time, cost versus info uncovered versus what can be done. Thank you, incredible, wonderful Shannon and Dr. Doreen, Haircut Mom.
Haircut Mom. We love our moms. So let's see. How important is a psych eval during the 3-year IEP for a high schooler? Well, you're asking a psychologist, so I'm going to say it's really important. I think it actually is pretty important. It depends on your child. How old is your? I don't remember how old the child is, but quite honestly, as our kids age, like let's say past 5 or 6, the psych eval becomes more important because it's not about psych. It's not like trying to figure out if they have mental illness. It's about trying to figure out what their learning style is and like what's their memory like, what's their speed of processing like. Do they learn more visually or auditorily? Those are the things that come out of psych testing. Okay. So it's sort of important when you do IQ testing in particular, it gives you so much information about how the child's brain works that it helps with teaching. Mm-hmm. So I think it's a good idea to do it. The cost should be covered through your insurance. Like either the school district should be doing it, by the way. Right. Because it's a 3-year IEP, or you should get insurance coverage for that. You shouldn't be paying for that because it can be pretty expensive.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Want to know about BCAT. Is this course done in UAE? Also want to know, what is Competent Learner Model, CLM? Does it come under ABA?
Yeah. So I won't talk too much about the competent learner model, but there's a lot of information about it if you're interested in learning about that, because that would take me for hours. Is go on the IBT website. I think we have some more on that in the IBT website, Institute for Behavior Training, and I think their website is ibehavioraltraining.com.
Right.
But having said that, the BCAT is the Board Certified Autism Technician, and what you should do is go on their website, which is BICC. That's their organization. It's called Behavior Intervention Certification Council.
Okay.
Behavior Intervention Certification Council. And the BCAT coursework actually is on the IBT site that I gave you. It's a training that you can do. It's a series of modules, and you can purchase that on the IBT website, ibehavioraltraining.com. And you take it, it's 40 hours online, but then what you need in addition to that is some form of kind of a supervision, or I think you need to have a BCBA supervisor as well. But look on the IBT website and on the BICC website, and you'll get all the information you want. And then it's just a matter of taking the test, the BCAT exam. And I think you can set it up in a way that you do it proctored, so they allow you to do it even if you're in the UAE. I think they have a lot of international sites that they do this in.
Okay. Next question. Is it appropriate for a 6-year-old going on 7 to start an ABA program with CARD? My son was diagnosed with mild autism and has a very high speech delay for his age, very minimal vocabulary. His general public school does not seem to be cutting it, with him only getting 30 to 45-minute sessions with a therapist twice a week, with one being a one-on-one. I asked to bump up the amount of time and or sessions per week in our last IEP, but was sadly told by the therapist that her hands are full at the moment. With other more severe children, she would have to look into her schedule.
Right. So yes, this is the type of program that we do. If you're getting twice a week for 30 to 45 minutes, that's a joke. No, that's not even ABA. That's they're using a speech model and giving you supposedly ABA. So don't think that you're doing ABA. That's not ABA. So with your child is 6 going on to 7, yes, absolutely, you should get into our program. We're actually really good with milder kids, so we have this level. Our expertise is for the very high functioning kids. That's kids who are severely impacted, of course, but it's easier to work with children who are actually much more severely. It gets harder when they're higher functioning because there's a lot of very cognitive levels of skills to be taught. So it's different. It's easy to teach a child how to say labels, words, single words. It's very hard to teach a child how to read someone's expressions or tell lies or that sort of stuff.
Right.
So really, yes, you should definitely start an ABA program. Now, given that he's 6, you really will only get somewhere around 15 to 20 hours of therapy per week, which is fine. It's not ideal, but I mean, I always want to ask for more because our kids benefit so much from therapy, but that's what you need. And what you should be doing is going for your health insurance again. It's funny, today we've had so many parents write in about using their schools.
Right.
And it's really, we're past that point now. We're at the point where you really should be getting much more coverage from your health insurance or Medicaid. And so please, get on our admissions portal and try to see what we can do for you, and we'll do our best. And you had a few with parents who had just written in, having a hard time getting in.
These questions have just come in. How long should it take CARD to do an intake? It is taking too long. I'm in Linwood, Washington.
Yeah, so here's the intake process, and it's a little bit, I'll explain the process, and I apologize if it's taking too long. I try to make that as fast as possible, but here's how it works. So we get your information, whether it's Medicaid or insurance and commercial, and we send that in for authorization. So that's completely out of our hands. Now, the provider, whether it's Medicaid or commercial insurance, could take a month. Sometimes we have providers taking a ridiculous amount of time, and we're constantly going after payers And we're constantly going after it and trying to get them to respond, and it is, you would not believe how difficult that is. So that's something we can't help. If they get the authorization to us, wonderful, then it's on us to schedule an intake with you. Now, let me tell you another kind of obstacle that we have to deal with. I think Washington, it might apply to you, I don't know. But one of the obstacles is that every few months, and this is recently this year, they added a series of new credentialing criteria. So they said all these supervisors who were supervising before now have to be credentialed at a different level, and they have to be in network at a different level. So that means a whole bunch of paperwork. So let's say I'm a supervisor and I've been supervising kids for a long time. The state regulations are changing constantly because this is sort of a new field. So then now they're saying, oh, you got to submit more paperwork to us, to the payers, and for us to approve you, Doreen, as a supervisor. And this now could take another month, or in some cases, and I won't name the payers because it would not be good for them, we have some payers where they're sitting on credentialing for 9 months, Nancy, 9 months, where we have kids waiting for these services, and we're calling them, bugging them, you name it. And I don't know if it's, I don't want to say it's a tactic to delay treatment, because they shouldn't be doing that, but I don't know what it is, or maybe they're short-staffed too, whatever it is. But on our end, we do, in order to circumvent that situation, what we do is we try to get a supervisor from a different region who has the availability and is certified to go ahead and try to do intakes temporarily while these other supervisors get certified. So we all have our credentials. Nobody at CARD is supervising without a BCBA. Everybody has that. But the issue is just getting them in network with the payers. And that is a process that, again, is out of our hands. So outside of that, what I would suggest is if you could please give your information to Shannon. You emailed Shannon. She and I will follow up with admissions and see where you're stuck. There is also, if you started the admissions process, there's also a parent portal. Hopefully you were given information how to log on. This is a new thing we started about a month ago, where you can log on and see the status of your own authorization. So you can see what stage it's at. Is it with us? Is it with your insurance? Are we waiting for credentialing? Are we waiting for an authorization? Where is it? And then once we do the intake, we literally do everything we possibly can to get you started post-intake. Because once the intake is done, the intake is just an evaluation and an interview with you and so on, and the child. And then we have 1 month or roughly to do a bunch of assessments. You then have to finish your skills. It could also be stuck there, by the way. A lot of parents don't realize that they don't move forward unless they fill out their skills assessment. You have to fill out your assessments, that paperwork that we gave you. When that's in the process, then we have a profile of your child. We write a report that says these are the hours I'm recommending. We send that in, and then your insurance authorizes that, and then we can start services. And so the process from intake to actual start usually is another month. So that's kind of the 3 stages that we got to get through.
Okay. We had another question from Moreno Valley, California. How can I get in touch with my local CARD office in Moreno Valley? I haven't gotten a call back. Also, is there a way to get my son ABA through the school district first? He is in 1st grade, verbal smart, but struggles with talking about his feelings.
So if you want to get with a CARD site, you just need to go through admissions. You can certainly get on our website, find the Moreno Valley site, call them up, leave them another message. I'm sorry they haven't called you back. I don't know why they wouldn't have called you back, but I assume you're just kind of trying to get information, because it doesn't sound like you're getting ABA yet. Or you could just call admissions, which is the 800 number on our website, or you can just sign up on our website too. And then someone from admissions will give you a bunch of information as well. Yes, you can get ABA through your school first, but it's kind of a longer process, to be honest with you. So the way to do that is to go to your school and ask for an IEP, and then through the IEP, they would do evaluations and they would assess and determine that your child does need ABA, and then they would get that whole process started. You know what? It's not a bad idea to do both, Because worst case, if I were you, I'd do both. Because then I'd get some hours from school, some hours from my health insurance, and I'd get more for my child. So do both.
Okay.
And certainly, again, for any of you guys that have a hard time getting through our admissions, first of all, I'm sorry. Secondly, it's probably because we're admitting about 300-400 kids a month. It's pretty crazy.
Right.
But what I would suggest you do is just send Shannon your actual information so that she and I can walk over to admissions and just make sure that your thing is not stuck. And then we can give you some sort of update on where it's at.
Okay. All right, we're going to take a quick break and we'll come back. We have time for just a couple of more questions. So we'll be back with more of Ask Dr. Doreen.
Inclusion is everything. Feeling like we have a place where we belong, and when I say we, I'm first and foremost a mother of a child on the spectrum and not, and gym owner and now founder of carrying this to families who need it as well.
My son is extremely hyperactive. Getting him to calm down is a very difficult task. So the idea of Rock the Spectrum Gym, where he could just go and run and play and do all these fun things without any kind of worries and just go, go, go and bring down that energy, it helps us so much at home. You know, in the home or at school, it's not acceptable, but this is the one place it is acceptable for the child to kind of be themselves and get it all out there and just really just be themselves.
It's an amazing place where my son could go and be himself. You get to meet other parents who are in the same journey as you are.
I think the most popular aspect of it is how they include all children of all types, not just only learning disabled, lower functioning, moderate functioning, high functioning, and non-disabled.
The people there are so friendly. Everybody's like family. They always greet you with a smile. There's not one negative thing I could say about any of the employees. They're all absolutely amazing. So I think every parent should walk in through those doors and see what an amazing gym it is.
Now a diagnosis being 1 out of 6 kids are in some way or form affected with sensory processing disorder or autism. That's why We Rock Now is on the rise. People want to be a part of it. People know that they have a community there. They know that they can learn more information about things that they don't know themselves or that they can share, build friendships, and basically get what you get in an OT facility, but it's not $150 an hour. It's $12.
Hi, I decided to start Autism Works Now as a small business because 90% of individuals with autism and related disabilities are not employed after graduating from high school. Our mission at Autism Works Now is to create job opportunities for spectrum youth and kids through awareness and education.
And we are back with Ask Dr. Doreen. We've got time for one quick question. Help, my 5-year-old refuses to go to timeout. He has ASD but is very high functioning. He knows the rules. When he hits his sister, he has to go into timeout, but I have to take him kicking and screaming. I feel like he's getting more upset. What else can I do? He can't keep hitting his sister. Thanks for your advice.
Absolutely. And I'm not like a big, I'm not a huge supporter of timeouts.
Okay.
Like, I think we need to kind of figure out why he's hitting his sister. Like, it's sort of the function of his behavior. So either he's hitting his sister because he wants something, access to a tangible that she has, something that she has, or he's hitting his sister because he wants to get attention for that, or she's doing something that's really annoying him, in which case he's trying to avoid that.
Right.
Whatever it is, right? So whichever one it is, you have to, if you have a good BCBA, they would help, behavior analyst, they would help you figure out which one it is. And that's really important. And by the way, it could be all three. In other words, it could be different ones at different times. So it is extremely important to determine what is the function. And then what you do is you don't allow him to get away with that, but you teach him how to express himself. So let's say he wants something and he hits his sister. Before he hits his sister, we have to teach him just to ask and say, can I have that? And then his sister needs to be willing to give it to him for 5 minutes or something. And that way he's now reinforced for asking appropriately as opposed to hitting. If it's attention seeking, you have to block it, not allow it to happen. And when it happens, like, you just need to keep them apart so it doesn't happen because he's trying to get attention. And you can't keep giving him attention for it, right? And if he's trying to avoid a situation, it's really about saying, I don't want to do this.
Right.
And then he gets to not do it. So really, it's not about, you can't punish this behavior. You have to figure out why he's doing it. Because hitting for a 5-year-old high-functioning child he's trying to communicate something. You have to figure out what that is.
Okay. All right, well, that's all we have time for. Thank you for
Thank
joining
you so
us.
much,
This
Nancy.
has been
I
great,
appreciate
as
it.
always.
Thank you.
And once again, belated happy birthday.
Thank you very much.
And we'll be back shortly with Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. Shannon is here. And we have 2 really fantastic guests, both young men on the spectrum that are doing amazing things. So stay with us for that. Thank you.
Do you think Jack knows what's happening today?
Not a clue. We ask him where the baby was, and sometimes he points here, and sometimes he just points here and says belly button. So he's either getting a baby sister or a belly button. He's not sure.
Good. What about this one? It's a rooster. Yeah. Another one. Sure. Which one do you want? Both. Okay. Here you go.
Jessica gave Jack Riley a partial vocal prompt to get him to ask instead of demand the puzzle from her. Last week, she had to prompt him by saying,
Say, can I? Sure.
but now she only makes the sound to get him to ask. Eventually, he will need no prompting.
Case. Case? Yes, I want case. Case. Yes, you can. There you go. Should we dance and sing? Should we sing head, shoulders, knees, and toes? Ready? Yeah? Okay, let's sing the song first, though. Sing song first. Ready? Head. Head. Sing first, and then Dumbo. Sing first.
Now that Jack Riley has language, he negotiates with Jessica instead of tantruming or crying like he would have.
Eyes and ears and nose and good. Head, shoulders, knees and toes. Whoa! You almost ate there. Yeah, you finished the song. Okay, come here. Whee! Whoa! It's like you're Superman, huh? It's like you're Superman. Come here. Jack Riley, come here. Come here. Thank you. Sit down. No. No. Jack Riley. No, look at my eyes. No, sit down chair. No, sit down chair. No, sit down chair. No. Jack Riley, you need to sit down chair. Thank you. Oh. Thanks. Good boy. High fives for good sitting. Thank you.
What happened?
That I was actually reading notes from other therapists that are on his team that he's been non-compliant when it comes to sitting in the chair. But right now it just seemed like he didn't want to do it because you asked him to do it, or I asked him to do it, and then I was prompting him to sit in the chair. But then once I just backed off, he sat on his own, like it's on his own terms, basically. But I didn't want him to get away with, if I asked him to do something, he has to do it. And that applies to when I ask him to do other things too, so that he doesn't learn that if I just ask him something and I don't follow through, then I don't have to listen to Jessica. I'll just listen to her whenever I feel like it.
Right.
And he's been really exercising just because he can vocalize what he wants now. He wants it every time he asks for something, and then if you don't give it to him, then that's what happens. I do want him to learn that just because he asks nicely doesn't mean he'll get everything every time.
Are you excited? Are you excited?
He's sleeping.
Are you sleeping?
So what time are you going to leave, Mike?
We have OT at 11.
Oh, you still have OT today?
Yeah.
Isn't it, can I get close?
Yeah, well, that's the life of a, that's our life now.
Let's go back out.
I'm gonna go, I gotta go take a shower because we're gonna have a baby. See you later.
Later.
Hi, I'm Shannon Penrod, and we're at the ABCs and XYZs of Special Needs Conference. And this year, for the first time, they've got something really remarkable. It's the Entrepreneurial Boutique. These are all items that have been made and are being sold by individuals who have special needs. So we're going to do a little shopping and talk to some of these fabulous entrepreneurs. Come on.
My name is Molly Rarick, and I'm founder of Breed's Gift. We're a nonprofit that serves teens and adults with special needs, like Chase here. We were founded in 2013 and serve people in the Conejo Valley, Santa Barbara, and LA.
Our main objective is to give our participants the skills they need to gain a more independent life.
My name is Shelley Cox, and Lisa Zalagi and I are founders of Creative Steps and Create Micro Business Enterprises. And the items that we're selling here today are all made by the clients who have passions about what they want to make, and then they get the profits from what they make after we've paid all of the other expenses.
We are here today because my goal is to be independent, and also I would like to share all my artwork, and I would like to sell.
Thinking about at his young age being a businessman, it's amazing. I cannot be more proud.
Good morning and welcome to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. And Shannon is back. She has joined us.
I am, and thank you so much for filling in for
you're
me
welcome.
this morning. We had a little emergency at the house, and you can really tell who's got your back in life and who's your friend and who isn't by the people that you can call at 7 o'clock in the morning and go, "Hey, can you do something for me?" and fly by the seat of your pants. And they go, "Yeah, no, sure, I can do that." And that's Nancy Allspot Jackson. So
Happy to
thank
do that for you
immensely, and thank you to Samantha for keeping cool-headed and
she always
doing
does.
all the things that she needed to do so that
Right.
I could be elsewhere. So thank you, thank you, thank you,
You're
thank
so
you both,
welcome.
and thank you everybody. But thrilled to be here
Yes.
with you, and we've got a lot to cover because it's April,
Right.
and there's a lot going
We've
on
got
in
two
April.
remarkable young men with us today.
Yes, two fabulous young men who are going to be with us. And both of them, they live as far away on this planet as you can live from each other, which is interesting to me. But they're both teenagers, both of them on the spectrum, and they both looked at things and said, you know what? I'm going to bring my talents to something to raise awareness.
And make a difference.
And make a difference. And, you know, I get goosebumps when I think about that, how amazing. And on the spectrum. So how much do we love that? And amazing, amazing young men. Plus we have in the news, and we had somebody write in a little bit ago during Ask Dr. Doreen, there is an article in Mad in America, and they sent us the link to it and said they'd like our reaction to it. And it's a call to ask for legislation to stop shocking individuals who are on the autism spectrum. And as soon as I saw the headline, Samantha showed it to me and I said, it's about the Judge Rottenberg Center. And in fact, it was. And I'm always happy to speak out and say that I am so anti the Judge Rottenberg Center.
Right.
I think that it is a horrible, horrible place.
Horrible practice.
And
shocking.
And we've seen 60 Minutes has done a report on them. If you
Right.
need to know more information about what they do at the Judge Rottenberg Center, you look them up online. There have been many reputable news institutes that have done news stories on them. They believe in the use of aversives. And always in the month of April, this comes up, that in the early days of behavioral intervention, because there is a school of thought in psychology that's the carrot or the stick, right? We all are familiar with this.
Right.
That you do things because you want to get something, or you do something because you don't want to be get the stick or be punished. And that is a part of ABA, the science of applied behavior analysis. But what years ago, when they began doing studies with children with autism and saw that ABA is effective, they discovered that aversives weren't. And it was unethical. If you and so there were things that they did in the early days of ABA for autism that we would never allow now.
Right.
That the you know, across the board, all of the professionals have accepted that is not okay.
Yeah.
That you know, and what you consider torture and I consider torture may be different, but I think most of us as parents would agree that putting hot sauce on a child's tongue when they've done or said something that isn't what the target that you want, I consider that to be torture. To hit somebody for doing something, or to give them an electrical shock. Now, sometimes there's an electrical current even when you pick up your computer. I'm not talking about that kind of a thing, but we're talking about shocking children and to the point where they're in pain and standing there crying and saying, please, please, please don't shock me. That's what they do at the Judge Rottenberg Center. If you don't believe me, like I said, check out
Lots
what
of
60
reputable
Minutes
news
did.
sources,
And
this is something that is simply just not okay. There's no...
It isn't. And I know that
no other way of looking at it.
every year there are parents in the state of New York and around the East Coast that they're told, well, you know, last ditch thing, if you're having behavior issues with your child, you can send them to Judge Rottenberg. Let's all band together and inform those parents that don't send your child to that horrible, horrible place. That's my feeling on it.
Okay, mine too.
So now I've weighed in. You asked us to, and so there we go. All right, do you want to wade into the news?
Yes, we've got some good news. The federal budget boosts special ed funding, addresses autism wandering. A $1.3 trillion government spending package will aid those with disabilities who wander while increasing special education funding and tackling restraint and seclusion in schools, among other issues. The legislation was signed by President Trump late last week, and it funds the federal government through September. Advocates say they're happy to see that the measure includes increases for several programs for people with disabilities rely on after weathering years of cutbacks. Overall, we're pleased and relieved, says Annie Acosta, Director of Fiscal and Family Support at the ARC, who cited gains for special education and housing. But we have to keep in mind that we're still making up for cuts in previous years.
And so a lot of people call this Avante's, who's the other?
It includes Kevin and Avante's
Kevin and
loss.
Avante, yes. And so it's exciting. This is finally coming to fruition. We also want to say that, you know, this is an example of bipartisan, you know, our two sides getting together, because this was legislation that was originally proposed by Senator Chuck Schumer. and important. So occasionally we can get something done.
Right.
It feels like it's climbing a mountain, but
The Kevin and Avanti's law will provide $2 million annually through 2022 for grants to allow local law enforcement and nonprofit agencies to provide tracking devices to families of those at risk, education, training, and notification systems.
It's about time, right? There's a teenager in Iowa right now that is missing and that they're looking for and have not been able to find, and we're sending our prayers there. But let's shift our eyes now to France, and we've covered on this show before that France has had a pretty shameful past where autism is concerned, that for up until very recently it was a common practice that they would take children with autism and wrap them in freezing cold sheets, thinking that that would eliminate the autism.
Right.
And they had at least one reported case of a child who died from hypothermia from being wrapped in the sheets. Well, France has had a lot of pressure from the world to clean up their act and to address autism and stop looking at it as a stigma, but give it something that is meaningful. And they currently are planning on spending a great deal of money. They've launched, and is that euros? 340 million euros, 297 pounds, a strategy in an effort to make amends for their scandalous past. And even the United Nations has denounced them and said that they had widespread violations of citizens' rights. So President Emmanuel Macron has said that they need to make improvements in education and rights of people with autism, and he said that as part of his campaign, and he's stepping up and saying that everybody needs to be included in school and everyday life. It's about time.
Right.
Let's hope that they spend the money well, because they're estimated to be about 50 years behind.
Yes. And an adult with autism in France is 3 times more likely to be in long-term psychiatric care. So
it's just horrifying, but at least improvements. So I love that pressure works.
Yes.
We all just learned a lesson, didn't we? And then if we shift our eyes to Colorado, it's a very volatile time in Colorado. We had a story about them last week, but there's new legislation that is proposing medical marijuana for individuals that are on the autism spectrum.
Right.
So there have
It's
been
a bill.
Yep, there are parents who have been testifying about this. What I am unclear on, even in the article, is that we talked last week and about a month ago that I got a little bit educated on the fact that there's medical marijuana and then there's the
CBD, the oil.
Right.
Which is not medical marijuana.
Exactly, and that the CBD does not have the addictive properties,
Right.
and it doesn't have the hallucinogenic properties. So I am concerned if we're going to make a shift to the medical marijuana, because that does have addictive properties, and it does cause for psychogenic things to happen and hallucinogenic things to happen. And I can't imagine. I'm not a fan of even giving my son Tamiflu, because one of the restrictions on, one of the precautions on Tamiflu is that it can cause hallucinations in small children. And I just, as much as our kids have going on with autism, that's not my favorite thing.
Right.
To set my kid up for that. So,
So this was, I was unclear as to whether this was, I think this is for just medical marijuana. CBD oil is legal in all states, from my understanding.
So this concerns me. And I know that we've got parents that are testifying and saying how much it helps their kids, but I'm wondering, I don't know if they have tried the CBD oil to see if they can get the same thing without putting their children at risk for other things.
Right.
I don't know.
I don't either.
So we're going to wait and hear
And a
more
lot of
about that.
parents are using it for their children with seizures, obviously.
Yes.
It's been shown to, at least the CBD oil.
The CBD oil. But I think there's a big, big difference between the two. And we need to get an expert on the show.
Yeah,
and
to talk about
a friend
that.
had
like
told
that.
me which expert we need to have. So we're going
Okay.
to reach out to him and see if we can get him on here to talk about the difference between these things.
Okay.
Because, it's all about
wanna
educating
be
ourselves,
educated
right?
about it,
I want to
too.
be educated too. So anyway, we've got these two fabulous guests. Why don't we take
We're
a
gonna
break?
take a break and be back with Finley.
Yes. Yes. And what
Hamish Finley. I'm sorry, Hamish
Finlayson.
Finlayson. I didn't even get his name right.
And he is such a delight.
He is a delight, and
So-
he came to us from Australia. So
Yep.
we pre-taped this interview a little bit earlier.
Yes, and what a delight he is. So you're absolutely going to love him, and then we'll come back and talk a little bit about that afterwards. But
Okay.
first, take a look at these messages.
Hi, I'm Yvonne Johansson, and this is My Little House.
My Little House is an interactive, multi-sensory educational felt toy that I invented to help develop children's language skills.
I love My Little House.
I've been working as a speech therapist for over 20 years. I have spent my entire career working with young children. I work with children with language delays, and I have many children with significant cognitive disabilities and children on the autism spectrum. It has been a constant challenge finding toys that are fun, educational, and actually engage my students. In every preschool, since I've been a young therapist, we carry on these felt boards. Kids love them because they're soft and they're fluffy, and there's usually these little pieces that attach to these boards because felt sticks onto felt. You bring them into the activity because they're putting a piece on the board. So it's almost kind of like magic. So then I just thought, wouldn't it be great if I could just take this one-dimensional board and make it into an actual three-dimensional toy? How cool would that be?
That's the idea behind My Little House. You can spread it out flat like a 4-panel felt board, or here's the cool part. In the blink of an eye, My Little House easily converts into a 3-dimensional reversible house.
This is the outside. This is the inside.
My Little House comes with 36 felt cutout pieces that match outlines in 8 colorful rooms. And they're felt, so they stick. Each piece inside My Little House has been placed with purpose.
For instance, in the kitchen, whole, half, under, on top, inside, big, bigger, and biggest, empty and full, circle, triangle, inside, outside.
The really cool thing, I have a nonprofit, Lecotech. They are the folks that put out the Differently Abled Guide for Toys R Us. They've been doing it for 25 years. They gave me their seal of approval as a toy that they feel is a toy with purpose, and that will make a difference. But My Little House isn't just for kids on the spectrum or with significant disorders. It's also for typically developing 2 to 5-year-olds. It's a fun toy.
Oh, this is so soft. That piece goes.
Recently, I took My Little House to the American Speech and Hearing Association convention in Philadelphia, and the response from my peers was overwhelming. Hundreds of therapists, teachers, and heads of school districts wanted to order them.
It was real validation for me that this truly is a toy that needs to get out there.
Hi, I'm Shannon Penrod. I'm a proud autism mom, I'm a former educator, and I am the host of Autism Live. And as all 3 of those things, I want to recommend to you My Little House. This is one of the smartest toys I have ever seen for teaching language to kids who have emerging language. Whether they're on the autism spectrum or completely neurotypical, it's a great, fun, reinforcing toy, but it's especially great for our kids that are on the autism spectrum because it makes learning fun and it makes it tactile. They have these felt shapes and they get to match them up. And I'm telling you, even the adults love to play with this. We loved this toy so much that we wanted to be able to bring it to you at a great discount. So right now, if you will go to www.smartfelttoys, and when you get to the coupon code, put in a-live.com, you'll get $5 off. Isn't that great? So I want to encourage you, go and get My Little House for all the kiddos in your life.
And welcome back to Let's Talk Autism. And now we've got a very special guest coming to us all the way from Townsville, Australia, near the Great Barrier Reef. We have Hamish Finlayson, who is all of 13 years old. And when you hear what this young man has created and done at the age of 13, you're going to be amazed, right, Shannon?
I'm busy playing an app on my phone called Nerdles versus Turtles, which was created by the young man who's joining us.
Okay.
And this is fascinating.
Hamish, welcome to the show.
Hello. I am not good at this game, Hamish. I'm gonna need some help from the inventor here. This is not easy.
It's not easy.
But it's
Okay.
cool. It's fun.
All right. Well, you can get back to that later. We can tell you.
All right. I will focus up.
Okay. Focus up, Shannon. We've got Hamish has combined his passion for technology with his love for the environment, oceans and sea turtles, and desire to improve life for people with autism everywhere. He has created award-winning multimedia tools and apps. He's created 5 apps that are being used in 54 different countries. 4 of his apps are about protecting the environment and oceans from litter, and his 5th app is about raising awareness about autism and strategies to deal with it. Quite a biography there, young man.
Yeah, quite interesting.
And you're how old?
13.
13 years old, and he's accomplished all of these amazing different things. All right, let's start to talk, because you have not only have you made these apps, but you've taken them to the world and done some very interesting things. I want to know what the Global Entrepreneurship Summit is.
The Global Entrepreneurship Summit, or GES for short, is where a bunch of entrepreneurs will go to a certain place throughout the world and connect and network with each other to help each other grow and expand, as well as learning tips from professionals in technology and stuff like that.
And so you went to this summit. Had you already started creating apps before you went, or did it inspire you to create the apps?
I created my apps before I went to the Global Entrepreneurship Summit.
Okay, and was it fascinating? I know you were very well received there. What kinds of things happened to you there?
Well, I went to 2 GESs, one in 2016 in Silicon Valley and one in 2017 in Hyderabad. And the one GES 2016, I was able to visit Google's campus as well as Apple's campus.
Wow, I bet that was exciting.
And Hyderabad, we might say, is in India, so you got to go to a pretty exotic place.
I just realized, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. I meant to say Facebook's campus, not Google's campus.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
All right, very good. And when you were there, you got to hear people like President Obama speak, and I understand that John Kerry gave you a cool shout out. What did he have to say about you?
He said I was just the youngest entrepreneur there, and he was surprised by that.
Okay. And how old were you at that point?
11.
11 years old, and you've already...
At an entrepreneur summit.
Yes. Now tell us, why do you make apps? What inspires you to make apps?
Well, I just hate litter, and I don't want it to be there. It kills wildlife, and I just hate that, and I want to stop that from happening. My app's about autism was created because I have autism, and I want to raise awareness about autism so people don't mistreat people with autism.
Well, we love that cause. And so the different apps, as you were saying before, have to do with litter and trash. But for instance, this one that I've been playing, Nerdles versus Turtles, it's about trash, but it's a game. And I'm learning hand-eye coordination while I'm doing it. And it's about moving my turtle so that, at least at the level that I'm at, moving my turtle so that he doesn't get hit by trash, correct?
Yeah, you're moving Triple T's shell to knock back the bottles from your turtle friend, which is engulfed in plastic.
Oh, I've got to knock back the bottles. That's what I've been doing wrong.
Okay.
But this is fun. I know for sure that my son would love this game, but it's also teaching you about the waste and the consequences of the waste that are in the ground. If you think about it, this is clever. Now, I didn't have to pay anything to download this app. Are all of your apps free?
Yeah, all of my apps are free, but there are buttons in it where you can donate to charities.
Oh, what a great idea. How old were you when you developed your first app, Hamish?
Oh, well, I was 10 when I developed my first app.
Which one was that?
Littlebug Smash.
Okay.
And did you just figure it out, or did you take a class? Did your parents get you software that would teach you how to do this? How did you know how to do it?
Okay, so I've always loved video games since I was practically 4. And in grade 3, I learned about how to make video games on my iPad via hopscotch. And then in grade 5, there was this competition called Young ICT Explorers, which is a competition where you have to use technology to solve a problem throughout the world. I decided to make a game based on litter and how it harms the oceans and environments.
Wow, so impressive. And do you enjoy video games? Do you enjoy making the apps?
Well, generally I do. Sometimes I don't, depending if there's a glitch or just tedious and repetitive.
Yeah, I could see how that would get a little bit depressing.
Tell us about the name of your app that focuses on autism and how that works.
Okay, my app on autism is called ASD and Me, and what happens is that you play as Triple T, and he's going to be put in situations that people with autism would be in, like loud noises, stress, and unable to recognize emotions. And what Triple T does is that he shows you the solution to it. So loud noises, get your headphones. Recognition is just practice, and stress is petting a dog or something.
Oh,
okay, great. So it gives you tools to deal with autism.
And one of the things that I'm interested in right now is VR, and I understand that you have a working title because you're making a VR app. What are you working on?
Well, in my virtual reality app, I'm trying to work on a game to help kids and teens and people with autism help cross the road, mainly because transportation is the leading cause of injury and death throughout the world.
And so the app will help them to be safe around cars and things like that?
Yeah, it's to help people practice crossing the road in a safe environment. There's no real risk of harm.
Oh, I just want to come all the way to Australia to hug you. That's amazing. I mean, that's a problem that we talk about all the time on the show.
We do. Safety, very important.
And making a virtual reality game for it is absolutely amazing. What a great idea. I'm telling you, the kids are going to save the world.
They are going to save the world.
Goodness. And you're going to be at the head of that, Hamish. Okay.
So how do you juggle all this, Hamish? How do you juggle being a student at your young age and doing all these apps and all your work with technology?
So what I do is that my parents have implemented this rule called homework first, saving the world later, which pretty much puts education before apps.
Okay, so that sounds good. Homework first, save the world later.
Yeah, I think your parents are pretty amazing too. All right, Hamish, if you had one wish that could be granted, what would it be?
It would probably be a world that has peace, no litter, and people with autism are completely... Hold up, no. Let me rephrase that.
Okay.
So I would create a world that has no litter, no wars, and the world has completely adapted to autism.
I want to live in that world.
I want to live in that world too. It sounds like a good world, and it sounds like you're going to help create that world.
Absolutely, that he's already on his way to. And so what's next for you, Hamish?
Well, I'm currently still trying to get past the technical review on my virtuality app. From there, I'll probably make a mobile version of said virtuality app. Just so
What's a
more people can
technical...
play it.
Hold up one second. What's a technical review?
To get like your app into the store, it would have to pass certain requirements to get in there, and yeah, that's what my app is going through.
And are you working on this on your own, or do you have somebody helping you to get through that technical review?
Well, my dad occasionally helps me with some stuff, and I sometimes get mentors to also help me figure out what to do.
Smart young man.
Okay. Very good.
And what's your ultimate goal?
I don't know, just being able to continue developing and growing and making new apps.
Okay, so you want to be an app developer as you continue. Once you get out of school, you want to continue doing that.
Yeah, I will try my best to continue doing it.
Okay.
And do you feel in any way, Hamish, that autism is an obstacle for you in any way?
Well, sometimes for me, I feel like it's hard for me to sometimes communicate my thoughts out, and as well, I can be easier to anger, and I can easily get excited as well. Is that the correct word? No. Anxious. There we go.
Anxious.
Anxious, okay.
But I think that all of those things are, you know, I think that a lot of us feel all of those
Right.
things.
Typical, neurotypical people feel those things as well.
And I just want to, I know Nancy feels this way too, and so do a lot of people. I think you're remarkable. I think you're absolutely amazing just the way you are.
Yes, you are.
Thanks.
It's been a delight having you on the show. We're going to be looking forward to great things still coming from you.
Let's talk about, let's let him say the 5 apps that he's got out right now. So what are the names of all your apps, and so we can tell people to find them in the App Store? What?
Okay. There's Litter Bug Smash, Keep Calm and Save Turtles, Litter Book of Facts, Nurdles vs. Turtles, and ASD and Me.
Okay, great. And I just downloaded, it took me 2 seconds, I downloaded Nurdles vs. Turtles. I can't wait to download the other ones and have a good time playing with them. These are great games for, what would you say, what's the age range on your apps?
Well, for my current apps, I would like to say, like, kids can play it, but anyone can play it.
Okay. You are an amazing young man. I'm so happy that we had an opportunity to talk with you, and we wish you all the best and can't wait to see what else you do.
Thank you for joining us all the way from Australia. What time is it there?
Right now, it's 7:15.
Okay.
7:15 at night or in the morning? I forget these time zones.
Morning.
In the morning. Oh, I
okay.
assumed it was night, so I'm
Yes.
glad you asked that.
7:15 in the morning. Well, we're glad you woke up early to be with us and do this interview. We are honored to have had you.
And we're all going to institute the homework first, save the world later.
That's right. Okay.
That's absolutely amazing. And thank you to your parents
Yes, thanks
for
to your
raising
dad,
such
who I
an
know there's there in the
exceptional young
background.
man. Thank you so much, you guys.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Good luck.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Good luck. Bye-bye.
What a joy and a treat he is.
I know. Can you believe all he's accomplished at his tender young age?
You know, I mean, of course you can, because you talk to him and you see that he's got it all on the ball. But
Right.
that's, you know, that's pretty incredible, and that's some incredible parents.
Absolutely.
This whole homework first, save the world
Right.
later, it just makes my heart beat faster.
I know.
Because doesn't that say it all?
It does.
Like, you know, sometimes we make it so much harder than it has to be.
I know.
Homework first, save the world later. That can be our new mantra. I want that crocheted on a pillow.
Okay.
On my son's pillow.
Yeah.
Homework first, save the world later. Oh,
right.
that
Well,
gives
that
me
was-
so much hope.
that was
All
a
right.
joy.
Let's take
Okay.
a break, and then we will be back
We'll be
with
back.
more after these messages.
Do you provide care services to someone with autism? Recently, more and more children are being diagnosed with the condition and getting the support they need as awareness grows. But what happens to these children as they grow up? It's estimated that over 500,000 youth with autism will turn 18 in the next decade, and they'll be faced with a very difficult reality. As children with autism grow up, their services start to disappear or become very difficult to access. Things like medical care, mental health counseling, vocational training, and more. All services that are still desperately needed. The loss of support that youth with autism face as they grow up is so severe that it's referred to in the autism community as falling off a cliff. Adults with autism need the same level of support they had as children to avoid falling off the services cliff. Introducing Skills Living, the web-based software designed specifically to help transitioning youth and adults with autism so they can avoid the cliff and instead fly to success. With Skills Living, help your learner with autism develop the skills they need in all the critical areas of adult life, including self-control, planning, and problem-solving, effective communication, performing life skill tasks for independent living, acquiring and maintaining employment or other meaningful activities, developing and maintaining social skills and relationships, accessing transportation and public services, and being safe. Skills Living includes a comprehensive assessment, a data collection mobile app, behavior intervention plan builder, and automatic progress reporting. It also provides a complete curriculum addressing 16 key areas, spanning the entire range of functioning adulthood. Skills Living is easy to use and can be implemented by schools, parents, and autism service providers. Call or click today for your free demo and see how Skills Living can help your learner with autism avoid the cliff and instead reach their fullest potential. Skills Living. Wish, learn, become.
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
We're just chatting over questions that have come in.
Yeah.
So the first one, do you have any recommendations to add to an IEP before high school? I have to meet soon in junior high for last IEP, transitional assistance, vocational, independence. I mean, one of the first things that I'm going to say is, you know, because it depends on what the placement is, and it depends on, you know, is your child in a special day class? Are they included in general ed? So I have all kinds of questions. But I think, you know, one of the biggest things that I found to be helpful, that there was a fabulous woman who came on the show a few years ago and gave us good things to put in an IEP for middle school, and it has helped me so much. And one of them was to ask for late work when it's handed in, for it not to be lose points for being late.
Right.
Now, over the years, we've changed that because we don't want my son to be, you know, feel like, oh, I've got all the time in the world because there's no deadline. So we've kind of pulled it away a little bit and said, you know, if mom sees that it's late on the computer thing where I can see his work, then he has 2 days from that time. Because it's hard on the teachers, too, to have open-ended, you know, all of a sudden in June you want to hand in everything from September. You can't do that, right? So, but I think being able to, because, you know, executive functions, if they didn't hand it in, doesn't mean that they didn't do it.
Right.
And for them to lose sometimes 50% points on an assignment, so make sure that you put that in. You absolutely, when you're transitioning from junior high to high school, at least want to have a conversation about the ITP, the individual transition plan, and that's going to be different for all kids. You want to hear from 14 to 16, they want to be testing them to see what they might be interested in, what they're good at, so on and so forth. By 16, the plan has to be in place, and that not only has to cover vocational, it has to cover where are they going to live and who is their community and how much support do they need from that community. So that's a lot to cover. If your goals are you know, it totally wide open, right?
Yeah, it depends on what your goals are, whether they're for graduation with a diploma, or whether they're for a certificate of completion, of which they can stay longer.
Right,
in
and
high
then
school.
And what would they transition to after they're done at high school? If they're in the certificate program, what programs do they go on to? So there'll be that discussion. You might want your child to go to college, and I just want to put in the note that individuals of all abilities can now go to college.
Yes, that's true.
And I've been researching. At some point, I'm going to do a whole hour on what I have found. But there are programs that are for people of all abilities to be able to go and experience college. We love the Minnesota Life College, where they go and they spend 2 to 4 years learning life skills. So it depends on what it is that you are looking for,
and where your child is at.
Yes, exactly. But I definitely, if you don't, the things that are just across the board, if they don't already have this, that you have one set of books at school and one set of books at home, so that they're not having to lug everything in the world in the backpack. That's a great one to have. And also, I think the late work, and then after that, it gets really individual.
Yeah.
Really individual. So if you want to write back and tell us a little bit more specific about, you know, the kinds of things that you're working on. John Paul says, hello, do you recommend biomedical treatments to all kids under the ASD umbrella? What do you say about that?
Well, I mean, biomedical is highly individual. You know, a lot of people put a lot of stock in it and others don't. Some kids are responders to it, others aren't. So I think that's a highly personal question, and I would not feel comfortable saying I recommend biomedical treatment to everyone.
Yeah, and biomedical, by the way, is a big umbrella too, because that includes diet.
Yes.
So I would say, you know, unless your child is pristinely healthy, which I don't know very many kids on the spectrum that are.
Right.
But occasionally I run into somebody who's like, no, they have an iron stomach, nothing upsets them, their poo is fine, they never catch colds, they have this crazy, high-powered immune system. In that case, I wouldn't worry so much about a diet. But for anybody else, I absolutely think that diet is a good place to start because a lot of our kids have
and
stuff.
you're right, it's considered like gluten-free, casein-free is considered biomedical.
And it's a good place to start.
Okay.
And I think that regardless, getting all of our kids as pesticide-free as possible is a good place to start. Now, when you get into supplements and things, again, it's so individual.
Highly individual.
And I don't think you should throw spaghetti at the wall. I think that it's important to get testing done to show you what your child
and
is
work
low in.
with a MAPS doctor.
But that's all expensive.
They're very expensive.
I have to say, and people go, well, no, just tell me what to give them. I just don't think it works that way.
No. That's without the advice of a doctor, it's highly questionable whether you should go ahead and just start taking biomedical supplements, minerals and
then the
vitamins.
last question that I want to take here, Suzanne says, do you think off-site supervisors for ABA have the same outcomes as on-site? And I will tell you truthfully that the thing that guides me is that CARD did a study that came out over a year ago, and they said the 3 things that they saw, there were lots of things that deliver outcome, but the 3 things that they saw consistently made a difference in outcome were how access to the treatment.
Right.
Did you have, and these were all CARD people, so we know it was quality ABA that they were getting. And that if you were doing the prescription, and so for some kids, the prescription, older kids might be 8 hours a week, right? But for the little ones, 25 to 40 hours. And are they getting the full prescription? If the doctor said they needed 40, are they getting 40? Because if they were, outcomes were better. The second thing was having an experienced BCBA on the case. Now, the reason why is because the people who do the therapy, the one-on-one kind of stuff, they need some training, but they don't need to be vastly experienced. They don't. In fact, sometimes having a new person come in is the person who can make the connection with your child. But there has to be somebody way over them that's designing which lesson do we do next. And the more experienced that person is, the more they get better outcomes. So I know CARD changed things, and experienced BCBAs happen because they gain experience.
Right.
So CARD started a program where you might have a BCBA in your office who's fairly new. Maybe she's in her first year of being a BCBA. Well, that's great. She's there and she's watching things and she can see things and report it to the other person. But an experienced BCBA has to be watching the case too, and sometimes they're watching from far.
Right.
And I would, based on the study, I would want that because that is what makes a difference. So sometimes your experienced BCBA is going to be very far away. I would want a BCBA as, to be there, to be there and see your child and be able to talk that BCBA, but your experienced BCBA could be anywhere because they can design from anywhere. If they have somebody telling them the proper information. By the way, the third thing that determined outcome was parent involvement.
Right.
So there we go. We're out of time to talk about this.
We've got to get
to get to our guest.
Get to Kendall.
Do we want to take a break to do that, Samantha, or just go?
Okay, we'll go to a short
We'll be
break.
right back.
We'll be back. Yeah.
Being part of this community is really important to a mom with a son like Jackson, because it really does take a village, and you need so much support, to help bring out all of the amazing qualities and skills and talents that our children have. So I'm just very grateful to everybody who was a part of this.
I think it helps with all sorts of that self-esteem, social skills. They seem to communicate a little bit with each other, and they had a lot of friends. The helpers were phenomenal, and I think the social skills for sure, because they, you know, they worked together and they did a couple of group things across the floor, and they sang songs together, and I yeah, for sure, I think it's a really huge deal. A great program.
What programs like this show is the person is in front of what we call today a disorder. I think what we're finding is that these sorts of brain challenges that make people unique can actually be gifts in ways we haven't discovered in the rest of society to bring them out. So when you see a program like this and you see the kids dancing, having fun, and making up jokes, making up the story. I was here when they did that. That was so amazing to watch because they were all focused, they were all present, they were all laughing, they were all getting into the creation of this story. And that to me sort of broke the barrier to say, no, first we're dealing with people, and then we're dealing with the challenges.
Logan Shepherd. At first glance, he looks like a typical American teenager. He plays in a band, loves hanging out with his friends, he doesn't like doing homework, and he's not really fond of broccoli. But Logan Shepherd is not your typical 14-year-old. Logan was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2. He was nonverbal, made no eye contact, and his parents were told to abandon all hope. Instead, his parents began an intensive intervention treatment. At its center was a quality ABA program known as the CARD method. This is Logan Shepherd now.
All I really want to say is, like, I'm kind of copying Martin Luther King. I kind of have a dream, like, that one day, like, I can just, like, inspire people and never give up. Because, like, that's what I want to do in life. Because if I can succeed, they can succeed. And I will succeed.
To follow Logan's musical journey, visit www.facebook.com/officialdrummerrock or @drummerrock on Instagram. For more information on the CARD method, visit www.centerforautism.com or call 800-345-CARD. Rock on, Logan.
And we're back with Let's Talk Autism, and now we're going to be joined, we promised we were joined by 2 remarkable young men on the spectrum today. And now we have coming to us from Columbus, Indiana, Kendall Gary. Hi, Kendall. How are you this morning?
I'm doing great.
Good. We're so happy to have you with us. Kendall, you were diagnosed with autism as a child, and you're raising awareness about autism by you wrote a children's book called Something's Different About Andrew as part of your senior project at your high school. Tell us how you came up with the story and its characters.
Well, it started out as my senior project.
Right.
And I wanted something that involved my creativity of drawing. And then I thought about something that my grandma was real interested in, helping people with autism.
Okay.
So I came up with this book that shows a positive light on autism in case people are confused on what autism is about and how it can be more of an advantage than a disability.
Okay, so tell us how the book, it's a 24-page book, and tell us how the book, what's in the book, how it shows awareness about autism.
Well, some of the kids that have autism are sensitive to sounds.
Mm-hmm.
I am the kinds of kids who have autism who are very sensitive to sounds. You can tell because I'm wearing headphones.
Right.
Use them to black out certain sounds that make me unhappy.
Okay. And so in your character Andrew wears headsets in the book.
Yes.
Okay. And what other things does Andrew do that show us about autism?
Well, on one page you can see him stacking cups in the shape of a triangle.
Uh-huh.
You can see him, he's also sensitive to lights and he has trouble interacting with other people, which is the most common for kids with autism.
Now, you not only wrote this book, you illustrated it, right?
Yes, I wrote and illustrated the book.
When did you start developing your interest in writing and drawing?
Well, since I guess I was the age of 5 or somewhere in my toddler or young kid age, probably 8.
Okay, so this has been a passion for yours for a long time.
Yes.
Okay, so tell us about some of the challenges and advantages of being on the autism spectrum from your perspective.
Well, some of the challenges is finding the right job in case someone who grows up with autism, they need to find a job that best suits their comfort zone or somewhere that their autism could be of good use.
Right.
So most of all, the challenge is finding the perfect job for someone who is on the autistic side.
Now, you're a senior this year. Are you graduating?
Yes, this year in May or probably early June.
And what do you plan to do after graduation?
Go to Ivy Tech and probably get a job.
Okay, so you're going to go to a tech school?
Yes.
All right. Go ahead.
I believe they have 3D animation or graphic design, one of those 2 classes. And I really like to draw.
Right.
I put both on paper and on computer. And I hope that this book could be the start of my career as not only an author, but also a cartoonist.
Well, that sounds like a great plan. Now tell us where we can get the book.
You could get the book in Viewpoint Books, which is in Columbus, downtown Columbus, Indiana, and on Amazon for double the price, I guess.
And I understand you sold quite a few books lately.
Yes, I have.
That's interesting.
I think on Amazon I've sold 80 and at Viewpoint 33.
All right, very good. So once again, the book's named Something's Different About Andrew. And it's written by Kendall Gary, who's an 18-year-old senior at Columbus East High School in Columbus, Indiana. Any other things you'd like to say to people out there about autism and those that have it?
Well, yes. Some kids with autism or adults who grown with autism, they might have get picked because they act differently, teased because they act differently. But being different, like having autism, doesn't mean you're not still a human being.
Right. All right, well, that's a very important point, and we want to thank you for that, Kendall. And good luck to you, and congratulations on the success of your book. Thank you for joining us today.
You're very welcome.
All right. We'll be back with more of Let's Talk Autism in just a minute.
Are those your eyes? Is that your smile? I've been looking at you forever, yet I never saw you before.
as a celebrity, whatever that means, you want to do what you can to give back. The way I've always looked at it, if I'm available, I'm going to be there. And when you get there and you see what folks are doing and the lives that they're touching, how can you not want to continue to be a part of it?
And for the first time, I am looking in your eyes.
What can we all do to make a difference? Not only with trying to find a cure, but to help the children and the families that may not have the resources for these kids.
When you're looking back at me, now I understand what...
And none of us are doing enough, but I think that we're doing as much as we possibly can. Because we all live in society, and the more we can all do to help society, the more it helps all of us.
And for the first time, I am looking in your eyes. And for the first time, I'm seeing who you are. I can't believe how much I see when you're looking back at me. Now I understand why. Love is for the first time.
We are back.
Welcome
and
back.
there's
What a
some
wonderful
questions
guest.
you said
Yes.
that came in.
Raina says about CARD. Does my daughter have to have autism, an autism diagnosis to get ABA via CARD? She says my Medicaid insurance would cover her ABA since she's got a prescription for it via the Center for Excellence, and asked CARD, and she said she has to have autism. You and I are going to talk because that's somebody who's apparently new and doesn't know. Question was asked yesterday because I had seen part of an email that you had sent. Question was asked yesterday, and the question very distinctly from high above was absolutely, because it's called the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. And so I believe that person was educated yesterday, but I'm going to connect with you today and we're going to get that all sorted out. Okay. So there's that. And also earlier, there were a couple of people that wrote in, and Dr. Grant-Pichet said, email Shannon. And that's one of the things that I'm happy to do is do the legwork. If you're having something that isn't working, write to me. It's s.penrod@autism-live.com, because sometimes I can go and explain things because you and I have talked and I know exactly what it is, and I can translate it into their language. Right. So feel free to do that. Somebody says, my son does have an IEP, but I don't think they're pushing ABA because of his high academics. Is there any legal verbiage that I can use with the school? The not fighting, but just not really pushing it. Okay, so here's one of the tricks that we all need to understand about schools. They have a legal obligation to provide a free, appropriate public education. But the word appropriate is the most important word in that sentence, right? What's appropriate? What we cannot do is legislate for them, you must do it using this method. We can't. I mean, the law doesn't allow for that. So when we get into talking about ABA for schools, let's remember that schools, they can use the principles of ABA, but it's really hard unless it's an autism school for them to do pure ABA in the classroom, for instance. If you go to an autism school, you're going to see it. It's amazing. And they have these little drawers and they've got 3 little things. Oh, it's a whole other thing. But what you want is for them to use the principles of ABA. And you can go in and talk to them about that, but sometimes they're resistant because they're thinking of this other thing that they've seen and they don't really know how it works in the classroom, right? So what we want to do as parents, shortcut in the classroom and in the IEP, is what we have control over is get the goals that you want in the IEP. Because once the goals are in the IEP, they have a legal obligation to make a huge attempt to have the goals met. And they have to give you reports, quarterly reports that say the goals were met or weren't met, here's what we did, and so on and so forth. And once the goal is in there, then you say, can I give you some information about how best to meet this goal? Are you interested in some education? And then you find the teacher who's really like, yes, I want some information, right? And then you can give them a lesson, gift them like a $7 or $10 lesson from IBT, which is the Institute for Behavioral Training. It's ibehavioraltraining.com. And then that teacher will try that technique and go, I want more. And that's a way to get the principles of ABA into your classroom.
Okay.
That's just an easier way. You don't have to fight. And then it's not a bunch of people sitting around going, well, I want you to do ABA, and the school going, right? Get the goal in there. That's your job at an IEP meeting, is to make sure that you get the good goals in there.
Yeah.
Then you can say, hey, would you like some help with that? Because I know some people and okay, so I wanted to take just a quick minute, and I know we're running over, to say that we went to Fullerton Cares Mardi Gras.
The Mardi Gras. How was that?
You know what? It was so amazing. But not everybody on our team was feeling particularly well. We got to start there. So it was a little bit rough because it was a really warm day, and we were just behind the 8 ball the whole time because they had so many people there, and they came so early, and they stayed late. And it was, I didn't have time. I grabbed some food from Larry Hauser's restaurant, which is the Bourbon Street Bar and Grill. Oh my gosh, you guys.
Great restaurant.
Oh, the food was so good. But that was all. I had time to run to the bar and pick it up, and which is because it's at the other end of the parking lot, and come back. That was all we had time for. And I was stuffing, stuff in my mouth while I was talking to people. It was horrible, so inappropriate. But I just have to say how much I loved meeting some of you, and the hugs were all around, and it was just, and we just saw some beautiful, beautiful children and some people that we're just there to support.
Yeah,
that's what I love
great.
about that is the whole community, and it was wall to wall people. I didn't even get to walk around to the other booths. Normally I get a minute to walk around and go, hey, would you like to be on the show?
Right.
And love what you're doing. And so I zero.
It's a great turnout.
Zero,
that's good to hear.
Because it was crazy busy. So I want to say thanks to Fullerton Cares and to everybody who came out, and all of our viewers who were there. It was so crazy. I don't know that I got to say it enough, but thank you so much for coming up to our booth and telling us that you love and watch the show, because we love you back.
I know, that's always
Isn't
great
that
to
amazing?
hear. It's great to hear.
And it just
Never
filled
get
my
tired of
heart to know, because sometimes it's like we're sitting in this green room and talking to ourselves.
Exactly.
Right? And to know that it's helping you guys, just it gives me goosies. So, and love Fullerton Cares. Okay. We're here tomorrow, and tomorrow we've got a big show tomorrow. Oh my gosh, it's so great. We have Deidre King, who's going to be here with us. She's an autism expert from New York, and so if you guys are in the New York area, you're especially going to want to tune into that, but she's answering questions from all over.
Okay.
So she's going to be with us. Bonnie Yates is answering a bunch of the IEP questions that you guys have sent in earlier in the week. And then we have Dina Kimmel from We Rock the Spectrum.
They've got an event coming up.
They've got an event coming up, the Rock Walk, but also Dina is going to unveil a new thing called Rock on the Spectrum. I'm not going to tell you more than that. You're going to have to tune in tomorrow, but it's big doings, and I think you guys are going to be really excited.
And we've got our military run coming up on April 21st. So go to Act Today for military families to register for that.
Absolutely.
Go to our website, Autism Care, act-a-day.org.
What an important event.
Yeah. So that's going to be coming up not this Saturday, but the following Saturday.
Absolutely. It's a big month.
It's a big month.
It's too big.
Lots of celebrations going on.
Yes. So tune in tomorrow. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me.
And yourselves a hug from me. Bye-bye for now.